So today's video is going to be pretty informational for you guys because we're going to talk about a coverage that is being blatantly neglected in Madden, one that received a lot of tuning in Madden 25 from previous years. We're going to be talking about cover 3 match and why it can be extremely useful against a lot of the most popular offenses that you face online. If you guys struggle with crossing routes from trips, or corner routes from trips, or that pesky underneath drag route to the tight end, this is one of the smarter coverages in the game against trips looks. And believe it or not, it does a pretty good job at slowing down some of the things that players like to do out of the most popular trips in the game, which is far and away the Detroit Lions trips tight end flex. If you guys struggle with motion wide post, this is something that will help you guys out. I actually have a different coverage shell that I customize that you guys can take a look on gridirongameplans.gg right now in the most recent vault update, the first vault update of November. If you guys hate defending this, you should absolutely go check it out. Otherwise, hit the subscribe button and lock in because we're about to get clampy with the cover 3 match. Now, what we're going to do is break down how cover 3 match in general works. You guys can choose to insert this coverage shell into whatever defensive front you want. For the purpose of this video, I'm in the 3-3-5 penny, but like I said, you guys could find cover 3 match in pretty much any defense in the game. You take a look right here, cover 3 seam in the nickel 2-4. If you wanted to go over to the 3-3 odd, they have a cover 3 match by name. The other way that you can tell if something is a cover 3 match, if it is confusing to you, is simply to look at the bottom left-hand corner of the coverage. You'll see right here, for instance, cover 3 cloud says zone, cover 3 seam says match. And if that's not obvious enough to you, just take a look at the color of the flat zones. If they're not straight up purple like they are in cover 3 cloud, there'll be this pinkish hue, which will kind of alert you to the fact that it is a match coverage. That's another rule of thumb for understanding if something is match behavior or not. This is especially useful when you're dealing with, for instance, something like nickel blitz 3, where it says blitz in the bottom left-hand corner, but the play actually shows pink zones for the flats, which will alert you to the fact that there is match behavior built into that play. All right, so let's go ahead, not waste any further time, and break down how this works. We're going to do this out of, like I said, the 3-3 penny. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start off talking about the hook curl zones, because this is the behavior of the cover 3 match that most players probably don't understand. And basically with the hook curls in this, we are going to relate to the third receiver on the trip side. If you don't know how to number for match purposes, it's outside to inside. So we're talking about number 14, DK Metcalf in the slot. He is the number 3 receiver in this particular alignment. Now with the number 3 receiver, these hook curls are basically tied to one another. If DK Metcalf goes vertical, it depends on which way he then breaks. So if he breaks to the outside, the hook curl on the left will match him. If he breaks over the middle, like on a crossing route or a post, the hook curl on the right is designed to match him. So let's go ahead and kind of talk about verticals, for instance. In this case, with verticals, DK Metcalf is going to break up and across the field. So it is very likely that you're going to be noticing that the right hook curl is responsible for that player. So this is where a lot of players will probably not know their assignment and they will blow this coverage because they'll just kind of think, okay, well, I've got help. And then you get, you know, potentially this one play touchdown free form over the top because the outside third is off kind of paying attention to other things. So this is something that a lot of players will miss in this coverage. But again, this is actually going to be your responsibility. If you can imagine, if you had carried this route, this isn't scary at all for your defense. So in terms of your user responsibility, a lot of things about match is understanding what your job is in this particular play. Now, we talked about how these hook curls are on basically kind of like a communication level with one another. This is a vertical route breaking over the middle. So now this hook curl is basically put into a spot where he no longer has to match. So his job becomes to look for a back flaring out of the backfield to his side or picking up something crossing from the other side. So a really good indicator here is the tight end dragging. You see how he cuts this particular route off? If you guys struggle with that tight end drag in verticals, this is a really good zone within this particular construct to take this away. So watch how he basically jumps down on this and is basically able to kind of cut that off. This is a scary throw. A lot of players are not going to be able to consistently make this. If I were to snap this several times over, you're going to see that he does a pretty good job on this. Again, very tight. You're not going to make this throw. You don't need a hard flat to guard this tight end drag if you know the match rules. Now, let's go ahead and go back into what we were talking about with the hook curl in the middle of the field. So I'm not going to be using this player, and I want you to watch how the inside linebacker Wildman runs with this crosser. So you see here how he basically stacks this route and runs with it. Now, again, kind of understanding here, I'm using linebackers at linebacker. Depending on what defense you call, this may be something that is mandatory. So for instance, in the 3-3 penny, if I were to actually try to sub him out, you'll see that it only allows me to play linebackers. If this is something that bothers you, if that third receiver is beating that linebacker, simply call cover 3 match out of a different defense, which will allow you to sub in those players. So maybe for instance, right here, I want to say, let's go with Tyrann Mathieu, new card, or, you know, maybe Kam Chancellor or whatever. You're going to call your cover 3 match, or you could choose any other defense you want for this as well. Just make sure that you put in players in this role where, you know, if you're not using that player and you want somebody fast enough to cover a crosser, make sure that they possess the ability to run with a receiver. So in this case, maybe we have like a cover 3 Buzz Mabel. You could run, you know, regular cover 3 match out of a different look here. So cover 3 match out of 3-3 odd. And again, if we're going up against verticals, what you're going to see here is now the weak hook is Kam Chancellor, or if you wanted to flip it or whatever, Honey Badger, kind of up to you. Depending on your alignment, you know, you want a nickel corner over there, you want a safety over there, whatever. So you see in this example, I could have Honey Badger. That's the cool thing about 3-3 odd, is that you can actually flip your linebackers with this for having somebody that can handle this particular type of assignment. So we snap this ball and you see Honey Badger turns into match coverage on him. And then he'll pass it off to the third if he can. And you see right there, that covers that pretty well. Not too shabby. So again, here, we kind of snap this ball. Here's our drag. You see Kam Chancellor running with it, passes it off to the outside third. It's basically walled off. They can't just throw that, you know, at all, okay? Now, in some cases, you're going to notice that players will run a streak. And in this particular case, this is where this is pretty cool, because what we have in this example is the outside third can't receive the crosser like we saw in the previous example. So if they run the tight end underneath, that outside third now becomes somebody that can drop back and receive crossing routes from the other side of the field. So you see Kam Chancellor is going to wall off that third receiver, and then he's going to pass it off to the outside third, who will take this the rest of the way. Now, what about if the receiver is breaking to the outside, for instance? This is something that, you know, corner routes, out routes. There's another play here in this particular formation that some players do run halfback angle, but we'll kind of talk about corner routes in general. What happens if that inside receiver, the number 3 receiver, breaks out on a vertical route? So let's go ahead and run maybe like an out route, a streak, and a corner. Just a simple bench concept. Now with this, what you're going to see is because the receiver doesn't break over the middle on the vertical release, he's breaking to the outside, this hook curl actually becomes responsible for that player. So a great candidate for this defense to be the user is, as I said, this hook curl, so you can match that crossing route if you so wish to. And in this case, you're just going to be kind of like keeping a peripheral view on that inside receiver, the number 3 receiver. He releases vertical. You're just going to say, okay, Tyrann Mathieu, that's you. And then you can take the post on your own. Now, depending on the man coverage skill of the player that's in this hook zone, this is going to be something important to remember. Obviously, you want to make sure that you guys have somebody that can, you know, stick with this. In a lot of cases, I try to pay attention to stride. This is where this gets a little bit deeper. So on streaks and, you know, corner routes, that is where long stride receivers are actually going to be really, really elite. So having a short stride DB matching a corner or a streak can sometimes get them beat. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to swap Kam Chancellor onto that role, and I'm going to lurk on the Honey Badger. So now when we snap this ball, you're going to notice that he's basically going to run and match coverage with that corner route, and he can stick with that a little bit better than the short strider did. So let's go ahead and take a look at the instant replay here, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So with the Honey Badger, those shorter steps sometimes make it tougher to guard the streaks in the corners, like I already said. With this, he's going to actually be able to kind of run with it. I know this is weird, but try this out for yourself. When you're getting beat by a streak or a corner or something, you know, deep over the top by a long stride receiver, try to match him with a long stride corner. I know that sounds really bizarre, but it's going to make a lot of sense when you actually try it. Of course, other things matter like play recognition, man coverage, things like that for sure. But you'll oftentimes notice that this can help in a big way with not getting cooked by these types of routes. So you see that this match behavior is prevalent on this when the receiver breaks vertical, and then out, this hook curl will actually take him and match him to the sideline. Now, this is important here because a lot of players do like to run this motion wide post play. With this motion wide post play, a lot of times you're going to notice that you're going to have this slant whip with this post over the top. And a lot of players will snap this ball. And you're going to see here that you actually can get matching behavior on the tight end on this as well. So if you take a look right here with this particular hook, you're going to notice that he actually is going to try to run with this post. Now, again, pay attention to the type of player you have in this role. If it's your user, understand that this is your assignment. So you cover it yourself. You see right here, Badger was a little bit late to match this, but the behavior was there. And also because this hook curl didn't have anything to match, he kind of dropped into that throwing lane over the top. Now, this is by no means a perfect defense for this particular play. This is probably the most popular play in competitive Madden right now. And I'm going to tell you that I have a hybrid coverage shell that utilizes some of the principles of this particular breakdown and combines them with a completely different other coverage. And I promise you, you will not give up yardage to this play. So if this is something that gives you a lot of trouble, I strongly urge you to go to my strategy website, gridirongameplans.gg. Check out the November vault update. Just put it in the first vault update of November. $9.95 a month unlocks the entire website. That's everything in the vault, all offensive and defensive game plans, Discord access for just $9.95 a month. Best deal in the tip space. Go check it out. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of wrap it there. This is how the cover 3 match behaves against trips in general. Kind of helps you understand how this is going to behave. Now, I have done other content on how seam flats behave as well within this. The general rule of thumb for those that have forgotten or don't know is that seam flats match number 2 vertical if they go vertical. So if you're playing doubles, the seam flat plays number 2 vertical. If you're facing trips, the seam flat plays number 2 vertical. So there you guys have it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, this is Zan. Get the lab and good luck.